The enemy resides within as we tread lightly through dense jungle and harsh conditions, because tonight we do a discussion of sorts on a more realistic and innovative war film, Oliver Stone's 1986 war drama, Platoon. This is a production that is returning back to the foxhole, and you are listening to a Feeling Good's Good Enough edition of Just for Flicks. What's going on? It's your boy, Patty B. What's going on, guys? I just introduced myself. Excited tonight because this is our very first discussion of sorts on an Oliver Stone film, and to do it with me is none other than Mr. B-Dawg, Mr. Brandon. Welcome back to the foxhole.
Well, I'm not doing it with you. I'm just joining in and discussing this film.
Jump in, the water's hot, the water's warm, baby.
This is a movie that I watched when I was in high school. I didn't know anything about it. I knew, of course, the iconic scene that came into it with the whole Willem Dafoe. Yeah. I was introduced to it because it's on the AFI 100 list. And so I remember watching it because my mom and I, that's when we were going through those movies and watching them. And I remember sitting there and just not caring about the film. It is a film that doesn't stick out to me a lot. It's not a movie that I gravitate to. And it's sad because there's a lot of good actors in this film, which I think we should just go right into that, should we?
Yeah,
Talk
we
about
should definitely just go right into the cast and break. I think we should break down the cast. I can pull them up real quick, make it quick, or to make it nice and efficient. Bringing up the cast, yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna go down the line. We got Willem Dafoe. We got a young Charlie Sheen, who is basically the main character. Um, my personal favorite in the film. I don't know about B-Dogs, but Tom Berenger. We got a very young and a very, very young Johnny Depp and Forrest Whitaker. Might as well throw Kevin Dillon too, because Kevin Dillon's super young in this. Keith David coming right off the heels of The Thing. We have John C. McGinley, another one of my personal favorite roles in this movie. Tony Todd. What's that?
He's a Bob.
Yeah.
He's a Bob.
Yeah, that took me a split second to really get what you were saying, but yeah.
Come on, man. That's one of your other good favorite movies that we talked about.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bob. Oh, yeah.
I have a meeting with the Bobs. Richard Edson, I think is his name. He is also in like Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
I think he was a predominant 80s actor and whatnot, but yeah, man, there's so many stacked people, and I think this is kind of a cast that in hindsight you didn't see was as big until you see what their work has done in the last 20 years, or fast forward 20 years and you're like, oh wow, on paper now this cast is crazy.
Right.
Because I don't think we knew what we had with Charlie Sheen or with Johnny Depp. I don't even excuse me.
Well, I think we talked about Johnny Depp beforehand. Like Johnny Depp's really like credits that, or like big credits before this, really that we could think of was 21 Jump Street and Nightmare on Elm Street.
Just he's on all kinds of streets.
He's growing up on the street.
Yeah. To those streets.
I just, that's why I said, like, there's just a lot of people. I told you beforehand, I knew the main three, but I forgot a lot of these other actors were in it. Like Keith David being a big one for me, because I'm a big Keith David fan.
Yeah.
Forrest Whitaker is another good actor that I enjoy. Johnny Depp, I totally spaced about. McGinley, I was another one I spaced about. And I can't believe I forgot McGinley, because McGinley has one of those faces to me that's just so recognizable. And so when I saw him, I was like, "Why did I forget him of all people?"
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that he's kind of, he's Sergeant Barnes' right-hand man, kinda,
He's got his right
or
hand on,
or
but
he's like a kiss ass
he
almost.
is. He
He has a good relationship with him, but I think he learned that Berenger's character as Barnes, he's kinda out for himself, and he doesn't really care about anyone.
I think that was the
But
thing with him too, and I wanna talk about him because you bring up a good point. I feel like with O'Neill, Sergeant O'Neill, which was McConnelly, um, or McGinley,
let me get
not McConnelly. I was mixing McConaughey and McKinley up, but
alright,
McKinley,
alright.
um, as
You just see
O'Neill
the bullets in his bag go,
exactly. I I he's one of those characters, like, I'll be honest, I felt like we got a realistic turn with him through the film.
mhm,
He's one of the
yeah.
only ones that I felt like I got to see that because it's like you said, he was the kiss ass.
Well, like, even that first 10 minutes with that whole, who they're gonna send out on the ambush.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, not
And he's,
me.
"No, no, no, you're not taking my guys." So he's like, "No, you're taking the fresh meat. You got the fresh meat, buddy." That's what
Or,
he
like,
says.
even sending them to toilet duty,
Yeah.
or things like that.
Got a
Like,
job for it.
yeah, like, it just seeing him and then you see him when they go to the village and see him how he acts, it's like, "Hey, let's not do this, like, this is not okay." But then
Yeah.
you see how I feel like with him, when he sees Barnes do it right after
Mhm.
the other guy does it, I feel like that was a good turning point for him because it was like, hold up, that's not right either. We need to stop this. And then, for him to be one of the survivors at the end, was another big thing. But that's why I said, I'm curious before we go into the budget, who is your favorite actor in this compared to your worst?
Uh, my favorite and my worst? Okay, we'll go with my favorite. I think this is one of Tom Berenger's best roles, in my opinion. Besides Gettysburg and besides Major League, just to
So
throw it in
I
there,
put
because
Gettysburg up there more. I put
yeah, but I do think Tom Berenger was kind of the star of this movie, performance-wise. I like Keith David. Keith David's got a lot of good, he's definitely on the Elias side, and him and him and Chris Taylor have a really good relationship
Mhm.
in the movie too. Um, yeah, I think Tom Berenger for sure is my favorite role. Right behind that would be John C. McGinley. But my least favorite role, and this might be unpopular opinion, but I don't really like, and we talked about it off air, but I don't really enjoy Willem Dafoe's portrayal as Elias in this movie. I think it's kinda off. I'm not saying anything towards Willem Dafoe. I love Willem Dafoe. I just don't think he was right for this part, and because of that, I just can't resonate with his character. I do like the relationship between him and Charlie Sheen's character, but I really he just seems kinda awkward, in my opinion, as opposed to everyone that surrounds him acting-wise. Like, I think with Tom Berenger and Willem Dafoe, that's just such a weird combination to me. Um, and I also think Willem Dafoe it's kind of a catch it's like a catch 2020. It's like, I do like the relationship between, um him and Charlie Sheen's character, but also, like, Charlie Sheen and Willem Dafoe in the same movie, like, acting with each other is just kinda weird to me. It's super weird, especially, like, what we've seen Charlie Sheen do. I'm looking at this movie in, like, the rear view. I'm not seeing this from, like, nothing's happened after this, you know? I'm seeing what their careers kind of folded out to be, and it's like the movies that you see Willem Dafoe in, I mean, like Spider-Man, all the Wes Anderson movies he's been in since then, The Lighthouse, all that stuff. It's like Charlie Sheen, his career kind of went in a different path, but I just think because of that, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Elias's character in this.
Which kinda shocked me because you and I did talk about this actually, what was it, yesterday? But you brought that up, which shocked me because to
Mhm.
me, that is perfect Willem Dafoe. When you look at a lot of his roles, that is exactly who I think of for him. Like, to be totally honest, and I'm gonna actually reverse it. I actually did like Willem Dafoe in this movie. He was actually one of my favorite characters, and then I will put Keith David up there and McGinley up there. I do like those three. Those were probably my three favorites. My least favorite was Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
I think I talked to you about this off screen. Like Charlie Sheen was just one of those actors that I get it. He was new, he was young,
Mhm.
everything like that.
Very green.
He didn't have he didn't have a lot of acting experience behind him before this. Which by the way, I wonder how that felt with them being in this movie and then Tom Berenger and Charlie
And
Sheen.
then going to Major League, I know. I thought about that too watching this. Well, and that's the thing too, is like when the more I watched this, I realized that, yeah, I don't think Charlie Sheen was right for this role, but and a big but here, big buts, and we cannot lie. I think you other flippers can't deny.
I
When
was
a movie
in
theme walks with itty bitty, yeah.
the DVD
But
they
anyway,
in your face you get spunk.
I do think his character has the best development in this movie. I just think from start to finish, I think you see what the war has done to him and how his mindset is. But yes, I understand where Charlie Sheen might have not been the best option for this role. But like I said, the character development is fantastic.
Yeah.
But I know it's just what I said a few minutes ago about Willem Dafoe not being right for the part, but yet his chemistry with Charlie Sheen, or I should say, just the way that their characters react to each other is really good. I yeah, I don't know. I guess this is maybe how the script's written.
And I think that was the main thing. I think for me, Charlie Sheen has never been one of the actors I gravitate to. I never have.
Mhm.
I've told you this when we did Major League. He's not one of those actors I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta watch him. If he's in it, I can either take it or leave it.
Yeah.
He's not on the Tom Cruise level where I'm just like, no, or George Clooney. Like I'm like, no, I won't watch anything with them. And Charlie Sheen
Uh-huh.
can be a good actor, but I feel like my favorite movie with him in it is Eight Men Out. I do like his role in that movie. But again, that's not everybody's. I just prefer him in that movie. And I like him as Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn. But even then,
Yeah.
but I feel like with him, he just to me there were certain scenes that fit him in this movie, and then there was a
Mm.
lot more scenes that made me go, "You could have had a better choice." Like
Yeah.
I think I told you before, I could have seen somebody like Tom Cruise play his role, or I could have seen somebody like Emilio Estevez play his role. And we talked about
Um,
that too, because that's brother versus brother situation in real life. But I could just seen those two playing it different. Now again, it happened.
well,
There's nothing we can do to change it, and I don't think this movie will ever be remade. But
no, I don't think so either. I'll throw one in the ring for a replacement for his character. I think Eric Stoltz could have probably done a really good job with this role. I know that's
that,
just think of the time frame, right? I mean, he just got off the heels of being fired from Back to the Future. Um, and I don't know, I just think and what he did I think he did Mask, like, right around this time, and Mask is a phenomenal movie.
yeah.
Um, but I don't know, I just think for that being young and being naive, I think he would have fit perfect for that role. Who's to say? We'll never know, but it's fun to fantasy book these things.
And I agree. Like that's why I said there's could be a lot of good actors for this. That's why I was thinking. Like, you want me to tell you what movie I was thinking pulling actors from?
Mhm.
If you pay attention, both the actors I did play in a movie in the '80s with each other, and that is The Outsiders.
Oh, yeah.
I was pulling a lot of those actors, thinking, who could I have pulled from that to play this? Like, you couldn't do Ralph Macchio and C. Thomas Howell. They were a little younger for this role.
Yeah.
But then I was thinking, okay, Tom Cruise was in that film, and
Patrick Swayze could have been good in this movie.
I don't know if I would have put him though as Taylor. I
I
couldn't.
think he would probably if you're gonna do it, and I wouldn't even do it just because he's so good in this movie, but if you're gonna put Patrick Swayze anywhere, you're gonna put him in Barnes' replacement. I mean, you're
That
gonna
or
put him where
McGinley's role. or something like
Yeah, I see him playing more of an antagonist role in this movie and not like more of a not a protagonist.
I won't put Berenger's performance down as one of the ones I didn't like. He's kind of the
Mhm.
mid one for me because it's just not a role I tend to see him in.
Yeah,
Sniper, even his role in Sniper is a little different than what he is here. But
yeah,
I just didn't like there was just parts that I enjoyed and there was parts I didn't enjoy with Berenger's role. I wish we would have gotten more of that antagonistic side of him instead of
yeah.
just being a hard ass. Like there's two different distinctions of it. When you get him to off or shoot Defoe's character or Elias, that's kind of when I went, okay, now I kind of like you because now you're kind of showing me a different side of you.
But think about it too is, like, that's, like, an hour and 10 minutes into the movie.
Exactly.
So this and I think that's a big flaw with the movie in general is, like, it kinda drags so much
That
where
pacing.
it takes way too long to pick up,
Yeah.
where, I know we talked about it, before, but Full Metal Jacket. It's like I'm hooked within the first 5 minutes of that movie.
But see, here's the thing I will put with Full Metal Jacket where I actually prefer Platoon more, and that is the combat scenes. Because I
Mhm.
get Full Metal Jacket's really good with combat scenes, but once they get out of boot camp, that's where I lose interest in Full Metal
Mhm.
Jacket.
I used to think that, and I think I watched it the more I watched it, the more I kind of appreciated the second half of the movie, but no, I totally understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, and this one, the combat scenes I do feel get a little bit more realistic, where
Mhm.
this is what they would deal with on a regular basis, and this I would give a lot of props for Platoon. The battle
Yeah.
scenes did get a little realistic because, yeah, I feel like that was the whole thing too, is most of the time, they would not attack till the night. That was most
Mm.
of their raids, that was most of their stuff, that was why that last scene was so big to me because it's like, yeah, that is perfect. The tunnel scene we'll get to as well because I like that scene as well.
Yeah.
But before we forget, Pat, we kinda already got 20 minutes in, we haven't even done our favorite game of the video or the podcast. What is the budget? Pat, what's the budget for this film?
A lot of people in this movie, time frame, I'm probably gonna go with 35,000,000.
No,
Am I up or down?
you need to go lower, and I mean low.
Lower. Let's go 18,000,000,
Go lower,
10,000,000,
lower,
7,000,000,
one more lower.
6,000,000.
6,000,000 estimated. You gotta remember, I get what you're saying, there's
$6,000,000
a lot of
thing.
big names in this film, but you gotta remember, a lot of these actors were not big names at this point. Charlie
It's true.
Sheen wasn't, Tom
I was
Berenger
overthinking it.
wasn't, um, even Willem Dafoe wasn't really all that big yet.
No.
That's what I said, there's a lot of big name actors in this, but you gotta remember that time frame, and if I'm not mistaken, this isn't Forrest Whitaker, I feel like I can't remember, when did Good Morning Vietnam come out?
After this,
It
yeah, I thought
after?
about
I
that
thought it
too.
was
It's yeah, it's like a year after.
That's what I said. Then that kinda started sparking his career a little bit more was this one and that one. And then Johnny
Yeah,
Depp in this and McGinley, all of them were still newer names. That's what made it so
yeah,
interesting in how they chose so the budget was only 6 mil estimated. How much do you
that's
think it
great.
grossed worldwide, though?
75,
More.
85.
Triple. Triple digits.
Triple triple digits, 120.
A little bit more.
Okay. Like what? Let's just say
130
I'm not
it's pretty much rounded up 139 mil. It's the exact
okay.
price was 138,544,255.
That's a big return right there.
But
On a
here's
$6,000,000 budget?
but here's the catch. Opening weekend was only $241,000 or $241,080. I'll get it out one way or another. That was only opening weekend.
Mhm.
So they were struggling a little bit. Then they boosted up quite a bit.
Well, yeah, I don't think anyone was really ready for this movie, right? I
Nobody.
know that, and I was talking to you about this, prior to recording, but there's a really good clip with, Oliver Stone on Joe Rogan's podcast where he's talking about his inspiration for this movie because of his time in Vietnam and everything, but he also brings up how difficult it was to get some of these ideas greenlit
Mhm.
because, like, he had a lot of issues with, Pentagon clearance because they didn't want him putting stuff out there. Like, a lot of the friendly fire stuff was kind of frowned upon,
Yep.
but that was a big he was saying that that was a big issue with being out there is because you get lost in the jungle, a lot of cross firings, and we also see a lot of I think we see a pretty good example of friendly fire, but maybe on purpose. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah, no, I just think there's a lot of big inspirations from what he went through, and, like he said, Elias's character was based on somebody that he was with, but died after he had left Vietnam, I guess. Um, Same thing with Tom Berecher's character. There was just a lot of and I think that's what kinda makes this movie have those really good senses of realism in it because, you know, there's a lot of war movies that have been out there that are a little bit overly dramatic, should we say?
yeah.
Um, you know, and I think you could say that for any war movie that that we enjoy. I'm sure there's always gonna be a flaw in it, right? But I think for this, where the characters bouncing off each other were so well done, maybe at times it seemed like you said too, there's sometimes where it seems a little overly drawn and a little bit more, um, what would you say, like over movied a little bit? Or,
Well, I think that's a good point to kinda go to the first part because that was something I wanted to bring up. For this to be kinda marketed as a realistic film, how can you
yeah,
say that, but then yet you have so many cinematic things about it that kinda takes
yeah,
that realism away? Like, the whole friendly fire thing, that was something I frowned upon big time because
mhm,
it was really unheard of for that, and so when they showed it, it just kinda just felt how do you say it? It kinda felt out of place a little bit. I get it, that's the most iconic scene of the movie because that's when you because it's always on the covers and everything with Willem Dafoe sitting there, but for
mhm.
where he was shot too, that sucker would not be running right after something like that,
No.
and he sits there and just, like, it just it felt out of place. It truly did. How can you call something realistic, but yet do something like that where it looks too
I do
cinematic?
The only way I'll counter that is by saying I think for the time up to this point, we hadn't seen anything with a realistic feel to it, like, even if there was an off-putting part of what you're saying, where this seems kinda overly drawn, I don't even think we had seen that much realism in a war movie at that point. So for the time, I think that's what kinda outshined a little bit and was like, "Oh, wow, yeah, obviously there's some Hollywood parts where it seems a little, unrealistic, but there's also I think the realism outweighs it a little bit, just a tad."
Well, I think that's a good point to bring up, and I wouldn't even so much say war films, I say Vietnam films. You gotta remember,
Mhm.
Vietnam films, yeah, you had some in the late '70s, but most of them start taking place more in the '80s, and then
Yeah. Well, this movie was what took place, I think, 11 years after the war ended,
yeah, because you had
right? Or
Platoon,
yeah,
you had Full Metal Jacket, you had
Apocalypse
casualties of
Now.
yep, Casualties of War. Was
Mhm,
another big one. I just there's just so much about that. It just I feel like and again, it's not something I feel like this is kind of like we've talked about in the past too. Vietnam was always a hard movie to or Vietnam is a hard war to really make movies about because it's very
mhm,
psychological. It's very all that. But see, this is where I kind of feel with this movie, it just didn't hit with me. And I've never been a big Vietnam movie fan. I've never really been a big fan of those types of movies because sometimes I don't feel it gets it across right. I just feel
mhm,
like there's some things that lack. Good Morning Vietnam to me, even though it's not truly a war film, is the closest that I felt like, hey, yeah, I could actually understand it because it's in a an interpretation of somebody who's in the military but not in war, and just kind of see that and how it affected the country more than it affected him. I kind of like that a lot. But that's why I said this really just that scene after rewatching it kind of made me go, how can you call it realistic but not do that? And I think that was a big thing to me through the whole film because the rest of it seemed realistic. I know we talked about it even beforehand, but the whole scene with them burning down the village, that was a pretty
Yeah.
big thing. That is something that you tend to see
Mhm.
and stuff like that. But then you have scenes like even them smoking weed and then having the whole thing, that was another big thing during that
Yeah.
time frame. People tend to
A
forget
lot of drug use in the
that.
Vietnam War, I think, compared to any other war, right?
That's when I kinda liked Willem Dafoe's character when he's sitting on the hammock.
Little hippie. Well, I mean,
But the gun
it's crazy
smoking
how
made me
much of
laugh. I was like, "No."
it's crazy how much of a social divide that causes, right? I mean, look at like Elias's crew compared to Barnes's crew. They're all drinking, getting, smoking cigars, drinking beer, drinking liquor, and then you got Elias over there toking it up a little bit, and it's they come over like, "Oh, there's a lot of points in this movie where they're like, 'Oh, I can't believe you smoked that,' blah, blah, blah." It's just crazy because now in hindsight with the world how the world runs today with everything and legalization of stuff, and it's just it's funny to see, I guess, the stigma
Yeah.
that, existed back then on that kinda stuff and how it divided people almost.
Well, I think that too, and you gotta remember, a lot of them did not want to be there. You gotta remember that. Most people were
Yeah.
drafted into this war, and I think that kinda leads to another point because Taylor did not get drafted in, he volunteered
Nope.
to come
Volunteered.
here. That's what one of my favorite scenes is when he talks to Keith David's character, and when he tells him that, he's like, "What are you talking about? Why did you volunteer?" And that whole scene made me
He's like, "Only a rich person would do that."
yeah,
He's like, "You gotta be rich to to say that in the first place." Uh,
but in reality, it's like he says, he found boredom in his life, he wanted something different. But in
mhm.
reality, I like that whole scene with him when he's writing the letter to his grandma and when he states I'll give Charlie Sheen that props. I did like the monologue at points when he was going
Yeah.
on about, like, "I wish I woulda never done that. I wish I woulda never did this." You know, the other scene, I that's why I said, like, Charlie Sheen was kinda one of those actors to me in this movie that just there was good scenes with him and there was bad scenes to him. One of the scenes I did not like with him, you ready? Is when he offs, Berenger's character, Barnes. I did not
Yeah.
like that. It just felt so, like,
It wasn't
okay.
satisfying enough.
Yeah. Like,
I don't think it was I feel like it didn't have the payoff I wanted.
especially the night before when they're in that big thing and he was about to hit him with the shovel. Oh,
Uh-huh.
I was like, "Why couldn't you have done something right there?" But then he wakes
Yeah.
up and he just starts crawling on the ground. It just yeah, it kinda, like, took away the whole purpose of them trying to find who offed Elias, but
Mhm.
then yet you just did the same thing. So it kinda took
Yeah,
away
and I love how there's never that proof that he did kill Elias, you know?
right.
Like, obviously, we see it in the movie of what happens, but, like, there's no proof for them to tell. Because like, that whole scene where they're in their little tent area, and they're all debating on what to do with Barnes and, like,
Mhm,
you know, David Keith being on Taylor's side about, what we should take care of Barnes or we should off him or do something about it.
mhm,
And the other guys are like, you know, this is part of war and,
mhm,
there's not much we can do, and I think also that alludes back to what, I was listening to with Oliver Stone talking about this movie is they depended a lot more on the sergeants back then because they didn't see officers often.
no,
So when they were in those situations for days on end, your higher ups and everyone that they, you know, uh, communicated with was their sergeants. And so I think you see that a lot in this movie, and I think you see the loyalty and also the divide because of that. Because people cling on to different sergeants, you know? Obviously Barnes has the more, what would you say, unethical procedures?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
unethical, but yeah, it's kinda like he's unethical, but he's expert. He's like an expert in combat.
Yes, and I love the part, where, um, I forget, they lose somebody in the jungle on an ambush, but it's the daytime scene. It's right before they go to the village,
Yeah,
but it's right when Chris Taylor's writing doing the narrating, and he's like, "We never all agreed with Barnes, but that day we did."
yeah,
Basically saying that they all wanted their own piece of revenge, and they all kinda sided with Barnes because Barnes was gonna be ruthless,
mhm,
especially in that village, and that's why they all kinda were like, you know, there's that one really good scene where Taylor kinda loses it.
yeah,
He's like, "Dang," "Dance." He's shooting at the dude's feet and everything, and he's like, "Why didn't you listen to me, blah, blah, blah," and you see the reaction from other people. He's like, "Chill, man." They're scared. He's like, "What about me? I'm scared." Like, it's just like it's a whole turning point in his character.
yeah,
And I love that. I love that scene because it's a big scene for Taylor. And I just we see what happens and we see how that unfolds with that it's a whole brutal sequence, but Tom Berenger, if you guys watch it, Tom Berenger is ruthless, and that scene, I think, is like and you were saying too, that's like the perfect, turning point for his character too, as you see, like, what he's capable of, and you see what kind of person he is, and you see what he's about. So
but
and then Elias gets in the middle of it, and I think that's what causes the big riff and kind of the snowball effect of how the rest of the movie plays out, essentially.
agreed. Now, Pat, I hear our drill sergeant calling us back into formation.
Oh,
I think we need to get going here.
it's time for the J4F Gauntlet.
Ba-da-dum.
Tonight, it is Patty B's turn. What? What do you mean it's my turn? We are doing a gauntlet on war movies. Mr. B-Dawg, you've prepared a beautiful list for me, and I am excited. Let's get to it. Let's get down to business. Let's
The
get practical.
To defeat the Huns.
Let's get down to business.
Business. To the
And if I wasn't sick, I would totally be into it right now. I can't sing.
All right, we're gonna start off with your first two movies. There's 10 rounds. Your first two
Okay.
movies is gonna be Platoon or Fury. I was not gonna make this list easy for you because there is a lot.
No, that's a tough one right there. I'm gonna go a little unexpected here. I'm gonna go with Fury.
Oh.
It's crazy. The movie we're talking about gets eliminated right off the bat.
All right, we go to Fury or Saving Private Ryan.
Fury's good in its own way. Man, that's a tough one. Oh, I'm gonna go with a classic. I'm gonna go with Saving Private Ryan.
All right, Saving Private Ryan or Gettysburg.
Saving Private Ryan.
Okay, Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan or 1917.
Mm. I think Saving Private Ryan is so iconic for obviously the first 20 minutes of the movie, and I think that really sets the tone for the film. And because of that, and because of I think just the combat in general, that we get in that movie just outshines anything that 1917 is. 1917 is visually stunning, and it's got a cool way of being shot with the
Sam
continuous
Mendes
shot.
special.
Yeah. But with that being said, I have to go with Saving Private Ryan.
Now we go to Saving Private Ryan or Black Hawk Down.
Mm.
Another good film. Very underrated film, I think. In
Very good modern day war movie for
Yeah.
sure.
Another star-studded cast too on that film.
Yeah. There yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
there
movie
is.
star-studded.
I think, man, both really good movies. I still think that Saving Private Ryan is gonna take the cake on that one.
Okay. All right. So we go to Saving Private Ryan or Glory.
Ooh, good Civil War movie.
That is, I chose two of the best Civil War movies I could get.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Glory. That's a good ending, really good ending. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, man,
that that
sad movie too.
it is. That's one of my favorite Denzel Washington performances. One of my favorite
Yeah,
Morgan Freeman. Funny fact, both of them were nominated for Best Supporting Actor for that film.
Matthew Broderick's not terrible either.
No, he's not. That's what I said. It's a
Hmm,
great, really good film for all of them that were in that film. Matthew Broderick, I think, was nominated for Best Actor, but did not win.
didn't get it. Yeah.
But Denzel Washington did win for that
Mhm.
movie. That was his first Oscar. So we go to Glory or All Quiet on the Western Front from 2022.
Yeah, I'm going with All Quiet on the Western Front. No, no hand or hands down.
So we go to what All Quiet on the Western Front or my favorite war film, Hacksaw Ridge.
I knew you were gonna say that. I'm sorry, buddy, but I gotta go with All Quiet on the Western Front.
I really enjoy Hacksaw. If you would have given me Hacksaw in the first round, I probably would have taken that all the way to the end.
The only hacksaw that I'm gonna give you is
No,
oh.
no, not. So here's where things get a little interesting. You ready? You're down to your
Oh,
last two rounds.
oh, here we go.
All Quiet on the Western Front or Full Metal Jacket.
Oof. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Full Metal Jacket. First 10 minutes, I mean, the first 5 minutes just hooks you in with the. I think was it Arlie Ernie
Yeah,
or I forgot.
yep,
Something.
yep. I know exactly. It's that
He
dude.
is so
You
good in
out
that movie.
there? You out cry? That art, yeah. Now you know why I
A
like Sergeant
jelly
Toy Story
donut.
so much.
You brought a jelly donut into my.
Well, like that's why I like him. Now you know why I like him as Sarge in Toy Story because it's just a role that fits him. But it
Oh, I
he
know.
didn't go. It was he wanted to say certain lines and he couldn't. Um, but your last one is gonna be Full Metal Jacket or The Hurt Locker.
Oof. I know the Hurt Locker got a lot of awards and was successful, right? That's with
That's
Jeremy Renner, I
Jeremy
think.
Renner and Anthony Mackie.
Yeah. I gotta go with Stanley Kubrick still, man. I just think he did it the best. I mean, I know it's like half the movie is in the drill camp, and then half of it is actually combat, and I think it's just a perfect war movie in my opinion because you see a lot of development with everyone, and you see a lot of loss involved, and I think you see how everyone is from start to finish. And because of that, also I'm a huge Matthew Modine fan, and he did so well being in the main role of this movie. Full Metal Jacket all the way.
But yeah, no fans, let us know how you guys would have done this gauntlet. Now it's time to fall back into place, Pat.
Back to our regular scheduled programming, and we're back.
Hi.
Hello there,
Hello there, Cleese. Hello, Cleese. Um,
General Kenobi.
General Kenobi.
General Kenobi.
I so going back to this movie, Cap,
His lightsaber will add to my collection.
I'm gonna bring up one of the scenes I really did enjoy in this film to kind of really get us into the conversation here. One of the scenes I really enjoyed was the tunnel scene. Where you
Mhm.
had Elias go in to this little tunnel with a little flashlight and just going through this little tunnel maze. That to me was another big accurate scene to me, and having
Well,
that because that was common during that war.
they were notorious for building all kinds of crazy stuff, right?
That
Tunnels, a lot of booby traps.
that's
Uh,
essentially you realize that is essentially why they say we lost the war, right? We were thinking going into the convenience of we looked at war as a sense of we were gonna confront people, right? What we
Mhm.
didn't know is that our enemies were outsmarting us and using their terrain to outsmart us. That's why you get the tunnels. That's where you get them attacking more during the night compared to the day. There was a lot of things.
Yeah.
That's why they did it.
I think use of resources was a big thing, right?
Well,
With
another big
this.
thing too, that's why they didn't trust a lot of civilians because
Mhm.
civilians tend to work because they weren't in favor of Americans being there.
Yeah.
That was another big thing. That's why
You
they
see that in Good Morning Vietnam a lot
Oh,
too.
yeah. That's a big thing. Where they were located at for that, they were actually in support, but
Mhm.
most people tend to not be in support of the Americans being there just because at the time, all we were doing was stopping the spread of communism, but in reality or the Russian influence, and that's when we were in the Cold War situation too,
Mhm.
because Russia was actually talking about backing the other side of it as well, which would have been good. But anyway, that's for another story. But the tunnel scene really got me that I really did enjoy because you don't really see that in a lot of films, and I actually did like that.
Mhm.
Um, the latrine scene when they're dumping the toilets and stuff, that scene made me laugh a little bit. You want me to tell you the most eerie part of that? So when they go out on patrol, the first patrol they do during the night,
Yeah.
Keith David singing in that scene kind of gave me a little haunting feel. Like the whole "Oh Susanna, so you don't cry for me." Like, it's just the way he's singing in such a mellow tone, it just beat
Yeah.
the crap out of
Kinda
me.
ominous.
That's all I was watching the other night, my mom was sitting there listening, she goes, "How do you know that's Keith David?" I'm like, "'Cause you can hear it in his voice. That is Keith David." Like, and he's such a good singer, people tend to forget he
He's
can be a singer, He's one of the main
I just saw a video of him at the Hollywood Bowl doing, the Oogie Boogie song.
Yeah, and he's the main villain in Princess and the Frog too.
Oh, that's right.
He is the main villain in that, and he sings too in that movie. He does a really good job of singing. I I really there I get the whole purpose like we've talked about with this is that there's a lot of good scenes with this. The shots are great in this film. Some of the
Mhm.
characters can be good, but there's just not a lot of good sparks for me that go, yeah, I would rewatch this. Like I don't know if I could ever sit there and rewatch this again.
And that's perfect for what, I'm gonna say now too, is, like, every time watching this for this podcast is, you know, like I typically do, watch it multiple times. So I think I watched this a total of 4 times, and I found myself every time watching this, I liked it less. Like, when my dad showed me this movie as a kid, I don't know, you should. Um, I watched as a adolescent, watching this, I loved it. I loved it so much. I loved the cast.
Mhm,
Everything about it I loved, and now that I'm a little bit older, I'm watching it and I'm just, like, picking out all the flaws and picking out the stuff that now know that I like what I like in movies and what sticks out to me in movies,
mhm.
and it's just really not that great of a war movie, I don't think. Um, there's a lot more better war movies out there. I don't know if that necessarily has to do with the realism part of this movie, and maybe that is a little bit, um, disengaging for what we wanna see, but I do think, this movie, it is a special movie. Um, I think it does do a pretty decent job for the war that it's, the story it's telling about the war that is being involved in this movie. Um, but I don't find it to be a really good war movie. I think it's more of a good drama film, but I know there's a lot of combat scenes, but I also think you gotta think about this too, do you think maybe the low budget has a little bit to do with how this movie turned out?
Possibly, and I'm
Because
not meaning that in a mean way. I think there's more that they could have done, and I do agree with that sense. But I
Mhm,
do feel I just feel like with this, and I agree with you, like just some of the shots were, or like some of the action scenes were good, but there's just so much of that faulty stuff that is unsure if it did or didn't happen that it just mixed with the realism of it. And I do feel like maybe that's why we didn't get a lot of action scenes because that's kind of where I was getting to with the realism and cinematic part is I feel like it took that away too much that they focused on Barnes and Elias a lot more compared
Yeah,
to actually focusing on the realistic part of this war. So how can
yeah,
you do stuff like that, make it cinematic, but then yet, oh, it's a realistic film? It's not. It's still a cinematic film. You can't call it
mhm,
realistic when you do stuff like that. Like that to me I feel like that's where they focused too much on, and maybe that's why it took away from the action scenes and the sequences that we got. Because that last scene was really good. That whole last scene in the night and everything, all the battle going on there.
yeah.
That
The last combat scene, I think, is really well
yeah,
done, and I think, like, I was telling you that part where it kind of I remember when I rewatched it, the whole, like, kamikaze part, like, stuff like that happened, and, um, the guy the general one of the general guys is like, "What are you guys running back for?" And then he realizes it's just people ambush, and he's like, "Oh my god," like it's crazy. It's there's parts that are unhinged, and I think that's what makes the realism part pop out because a lot of that stuff did happen. A lot of the unexpected happened in a war like this, and for geographically where it was.
one of
Um,
one of the scenes I really liked, I know we haven't really talked about this, is like we said, the first night platoon, like the night guide that they're going, or the light tour, not light tour, but I'm trying to find the right word to say.
the
The
ambush?
No, 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 no. Well, not an ambush for them, but like they're going out not on a mission, but they're going out like to survey the area, to make sure
Yeah,
they're going out. And when they're on the night shift and they're not supposed to catch sleep, one has to stay
yeah,
up. That whole scene where he has the ants on him and then he sits there and he opens up his towel and you just see a soldier just like slowly inching in.
mhm.
That scene was actually really well done. I actually really did enjoy that whole scene. Um, Even like Tom Barrett, that was kind of one of the points I was like, okay, it's like truth the purge, and then it's
Yeah.
like the guy's like, oh, like
Well, and then I wanna bring up this too, and I think this almost sets the tone for the division within the platoon is they're all not supposed to be catching sleep, but he looks up and sees that everyone's asleep around him. But yet when the ambush happens or, when the action starts, they blame him for being asleep, even though he wasn't asleep.
and he wasn't the
And I
one on
think
duty either.
yeah,
He was supposed to be
and
junior.
Elias is the only one that catches that where he's like, he gives that other, I forget the gentleman's name,
Junior, I think
but
his name is.
Junior, yeah, he tells Junior to go back on duty or something like that
He tells him to
afterwards.
carry the dude's body.
That's what it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it was really Junior that was asleep, but Junior is putting it off that he's snitching on Taylor, and Taylor was catching Z's. Yeah, man, you just see the betrayal quickly, and you see how everyone kind of, in in a sense, there's a lot of people that are out for themselves in this, and it shows.
Well, see, I
And it,
think that was like a big thing between Whitaker's and Junior's role in that is Whitaker was always on the side of Taylor too. Like, okay, knock it
mhm,
off. We're not accomplishing anything by sitting there and passing judgment. Even McKinley's like, oh, excuses, like what was it? Everybody's got an excuse kind of thing, or I forgot the exact line.
excuses are like assholes. Everyone's got one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is exactly like I just it just shows you the combat experience between some and then some of the new ones kind of getting the crap for it. That
Mhm.
and that's why I said, like, even Elias brought that up, like, "You can't just send me out with new guys because they're gonna just be offed 1, 2, 3 because they're not used to this." So, that's when that's why I said it's just there's just some things I just kinda wish they woulda did differently in this film, but it wasn't, like, terrible, like, I remember watching it the first time, I didn't like it at all.
Mhm.
Rewatching it, there are parts I do enjoy, and I think it's because I'm older now. And I
Yeah.
understand the film a lot better, but it's still not like I will not get this over a 6. I'm just gonna put it out there now. So,
Should we just go into rankings? I
Yeah.
think I mean,
Well, I think we've covered a lot
this
about the movie. I feel like there's
yeah,
really not tons to discuss because there's really not a lot to discuss about this film because it's more
it's a short war movie too compared to a lot of other war movies.
and
This movie is under 2 hours.
and it's more sequences and stuff like that instead of really talking about things that actually happen. I get the whole purpose, like we said, of the whole good and bad situation, but it kind of takes away
Uh,
the
it's
whole like the whole corruptness to the just there to do their duty kind of thing and takes away the good and
mhm,
evil part, but it takes away from the realistic side. I'm going to put it right now. My ranking for this film is going to be a 5.7. I won't give it higher than that. I get some of the shots. That's what saves it. The shots and the score save this for me.
the score is amazing.
That
The score
whole
is
like
phenomenal. I'm
boom,
glad you brought that up. I'm glad we didn't go without talking about that.
like
Yeah, the score is really good.
well, like even the
Yeah,
song when they're getting off the plane and how that melody kind of goes throughout the whole movie. It's so eerie feeling, but it's still like what's gonna happen kind of thing, or
yeah.
but it's very sad and emotional too. I give it a 5.7. I wish they would have did some different choices, and especially with Charlie Sheen. Um, just gonna put it out there. I could have lived with Tom Berenger rewatching it today a little bit more. I can get behind him a little bit more. And Willem Dafoe, I loved in this film, but
That makes me feel better, what you're saying about Berenger. I think he is slept on in
he's
this
not as good
movie.
as Dafoe to me, but I do like Berenger in this film.
He's by the way, the makeup with the scars
Well,
and everything makes his character so
he
badass.
he makes him stand out, makes him war
Oh,
hardened a
for
little bit.
sure.
It makes him war
For
hardened
sure.
more than what you would see with Elias.
Mhm.
But I love how Elias is the one carrying the big guns too, compared to Barnes carrying just an
Yeah.
M16. But I give it a 5.7. I don't think I would ever rank it higher. I don't know if I would ever sit there and go back and rewatch this again on my own accord. Um, so
Yeah, I think I'm well platooned out for a while.
yeah, so where would you rank it, pal, on a scale of 1 to 10? I don't have
Well,
nothing special today because I can't really come up with anything today.
before, how many, dog tags do you rate this at?
No, don't do
Um, um, before rewatching it all these times and prepping for this, I had it ranked a lot higher in my brain or in my mind, in my brain.
in your
Um,
brain.
in my brain. I like I said, every time I watched this, I started to realize like how much I like the movie, but there's like I said, there's parts where I'm just like, it just drags on. It's not my favorite war movie because of that. I'm gonna get a little bit higher than what you rated it, but not much. I'm going with a 6.1.
Bum, bum,
So
bum. That's
I
also
mean,
slower than I thought you would.
this 2 weeks ago would have probably been at like a high sevens, maybe low eights for me.
Mm.
But I think with how I've watched it and like what we've talked about in this episode is, yeah, I think a 6.1 is fine. It's a great movie. I think everyone should definitely watch it. At least give it a watch and see what you think. But I also don't blame B-Dawg for not wanting to watch it again. So
Yeah, it's just one of those films. It's like it's a war film. There's war films you can sit there and rewatch, and there are war films you can only watch once. This is one of them that you fall into that. You watch it once and you're done.
but you should watch it once.
Yeah,
You should watch it at
and
least once.
I'll give it props there, but that's why I have it at the 5.7 because I'm kind of like you. Anything over a 6 or a 7 is rewatchable to me. That's not.
Mhm.
I'd rather watch
Yeah, and I
sit there
think
and
that's
watch
why I gave it
Parasite again than to watch that.
that's why I think I gave it a low 6, and that's kind of give or take right there if you wanna rewatch it, but yeah, no, I agree. That's why, this was a lot higher in my brain,
And
a
play
few weeks back. Now that I've seen it for what it is, so to speak, no pun intended, I think it is what it is,
it is what
I don't
it is.
the cool thing about doing this is I wanna cover movies that I don't like sometimes, and I'm not saying I don't like this movie, but I've actually this has been more of a learning experience for me because I've realized that Platoon's not the greatest movie in the world.
It's not that it's not a bad movie. I get it. It launched a lot of careers, but it's just not a movie that you can sit there and rewatch. I
Yeah, like, "Oh, we're gonna watch Platoon tonight." I'm like,
I'd rather go.
seen it,
Yeah, it's like I'd rather go see this.
been there, done that.
But no, fans, let us know what you guys think about Platoon. Are we crazy in ranking it the way we did, or do you guys agree?
Great.
What's your favorite part about Platoon? Who would you have recasted any of the main actors in this film, or would you have kept them the same? What's your favorite war film? Let us know in the comments. Remember, if you like this content, you want more of it, remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that bell notification, and hit the like button. On top of it, listen to us on Spotify as well, and also check us out on TikTok and Instagram at J4F Podcast to get all the updates on the podcast. And without further ado, I turn over to Patty B to take us out.
Yeah, thank you guys for everything. Thank you for joining B-Dawg and myself in the foxhole tonight. Thank you, B-Dawg, for joining me in the foxhole tonight. It was good to return back to it. And until then, remember, we do it just for flicks. Take the pain.